Wind energy. Perhaps the best alternative to meet the demand for energy in our day and age, now that we want to reduce CO2 emissions and save the remaining supplies of fossil fuels. Regardless of there being supporters and opponents of this form of green energy, it is a fact that the current turbines provide more and more energy, but only once they are in place, of course. However, more energy also means increasingly bigger and heavier installations, higher towers and larger blades, which bring new challenges for builders and transporters. After all of those parts of a wind turbine must at some point be transported along the roads, and that requires smarter transport solutions. Roads will not become wider, overpasses will not become higher, and not all bends in the road can be adjusted. In order to meet all the specific demands of this kind of transport, trailer builders closely cooperate with the manufacturers of wind turbine installations to produce fine results and high-tech solutions. One of the leading developers is Nooteboom trailers in Wijchen, the Netherlands. A market leader for decades in terms of special trailers for the transport of all kinds of wind turbine parts.
Nooteboom Trailers is een familiebedrijf. Nooteboom bestaat sinds 1881 en we zijn gespecialiseerd in het bouwen van voertuigen voor het speciaal en zwaar wegtransport. Al onze nieuwe voertuigen, dus ook de trailers voor het windmolensegment, zijn 4 punten belangrijk. Het voertuig moet eenvoudig te beladen zijn, dus het meest solide voertuig. Het voertuig moet eenvoudig te bedienen zijn. Het voertuig moet betrouwbaar zijn, want zeker met een blad van 40 meter lang of 50 meter lang wil je niet stilvallen op een kruising. En voor de transporteur is belangrijk een lage total cost of ownership. In de beginjaren van de windmolenindustrie was er één fabrikant die nadacht over het transport van windmolencomponenten, dat was Vestas. We hebben in die jaren met Vestas de bekende vloer gemaakt voor het vervoer van de Vestas V80. Waarbij geen kraan nodig was om een turbinehuis op de vloer te laden of te lossen. Vervolgens hebben we met Vestas de mega windmolentransporter ontwikkeld. En in de loop van de jaren hebben we gezien dat het meer een gezamenlijke ontwikkeling wordt van windmolenfabrikanten, transporteurs en de bouwer van de voertuigen.
The Altead company, a leading player in the wind turbine transport market in France, has also come to recognize the benefits of the mega windmill transporter. For the transport of 2 nacelles from Sète in the south of France to a wind park in the Pyrenees, around 40 kilometers, they have deployed this new mega windmill transporter in addition to a regular low loader. The trailing dolly is rapidly decoupled and the jeep dolly is positioned at the front of the turbine, after which the trailing dolly is driven to the back of the turbine. During this operation, the biggest and in fact only obstacle is the fencing of the port side. Once the fence is moved aside, the 7-axle trailing dolly can be driven up to the turbine by means of a push bar in the front of the Volvo. Then it is only a matter of hooking up and clamping. Then back around to the jeep dolly at the front, hooking up and clamping, ensuring all the electricity is working, and then lifting. Unfortunately, all the time savings are wiped out by the obligatory waiting for permission to depart. Of course, that happens everywhere, but France is unique in this matter. Let's just say that in France, they like to keep the drivers in line. Only the next morning, at the beginning of the rush hour, are we allowed to enter Montpellier. And so, the next morning, the transport, escorted by 4 members of a police motorcade as well as 4 pilot vans, heads for Montpellier, taking the motorway from there in the direction of Perpignan. The Montpellier ring road is quite busy, as always during rush hour. Fortunately, the Altead drivers are quite used to this and pay no attention to the other impatient French road users who try to maneuver through the transport column like kamikaze pilots. After Béziers, we are directed to the scenic route, and from here we take the D609 towards Narbonne, and near Cosson, a historic bridge suddenly appears. No problems, just a good picture opportunity. In the evening, the last part of the journey to our destination, a wind park in the mountains. some 8 kilometers beyond Beeksas.
We hebben in de loop van de jaren gezien dat de windmolens zijn gegroeid in output, de capaciteit. We zijn van een 1 megawatt naar tegenwoordig een 3,5 megawatt windmolen gegaan. In de beginjaren is vooral het turbinehuis gegroeid. Dat werd te zwaar en men heeft het turbinehuis opgesplitst. Een los huis en een losse drivetrain. Die worden separaat vervoerd. De torendelen zijn een beetje gestabiliseerd op een lengte van tussen de 20 en de 25 meter. En een diameter van rond de 4,30 meter, omdat het door Europa goed over de weg te transporteren is. De grootste uitdaging zit op dit moment bij de bladen, die extreem lang beginnen te worden. We zitten nu op lengtes van 65 meter. En daar is, als we naar het wegennet kijken, een beetje de grens bereikt. Tot een paar jaar geleden werden de bladen van de windmolens vooral vervoerd op vlakke uitschuifbare trailers. Dat ging tot een lengte van ongeveer 50 meter. Nu de bladen nog langer zijn geworden, hebben we een speciale trailer ervoor ontwikkeld, onze superwing carrier. En bij die ontwikkeling was eigenlijk het belangrijkste zorgen dat de trailer geen belemmering is bij het transport van de vleugel. Als de vleugel door een opening past, moet de trailer er ook doorheen passen. Nooteboom denkt dat we de komende jaren richting een output van 4,5, 5 megawatt molens gaan. De afmetingen van de componenten zullen hoofdzakelijk bepaald gaan worden door het wegennet. Waarbij we denken aan transportgewichten van maximaal een 130 ton. Breedtes van rond de 5 meter wat nog over de weg gaat. Als doorverland Duitsland bijvoorbeeld is een hoogte van 4,5 meter maatgevend. En de bladen zal ongeveer tussen de 70 en de 80 meter blijven liggen. Want u kunt zich ook voorstellen, u moet de combinatie nog ergens kunnen parkeren als u rijdt. De superwing carrier die kenmerkt zich ook door allerlei speciale accessoires, zoals bijvoorbeeld de zogenaamde banaan die boven op het laadvlak ligt. Waarbij het mogelijk is om met een beladen trailer, zonder dat het blad eraf wordt gehaald, tijdens het transport de wielbasis van het voertuig in te korten. Zodat bijvoorbeeld de tip van de vleugel over een afgrond kan steken en u niet klem loopt aan de binnenkant.
The Portuguese Lasso, now one of the leaders in the field of windmill transport, is also convinced of the possibilities of the superwing carrier. In 2015, they purchased 10 of them for the transport of wind turbine blades from the Vestas factory in Windmill in Spain, about 170 kilometers south of Madrid, straight through the Sierra Nevada to the port of Motril. Every 3 days, trucks loaded with 63-meter-long blades take this route, that runs mostly over fine main roads through the middle of Spain. At temperatures sometimes exceeding 35 degrees Celsius, it's too hot to be outside. But once loaded and leaving the factory premises, the brand new combinations head towards their destination at a good speed. The roads are wide, the overpass is higher than usual, and as the holiday season has not yet begun, there is little traffic. Still, assistance does not only consist of special pilot vehicles, the police also like to get involved. Their main task is blocking access and exit points to enable the transport to proceed and to prevent traffic disruption due to unexpected maneuvers by car drivers. The drivers know the route backwards and know in advance where the blade support should be placed on the trailer to avoid the need to shift it en route. There are, however, some obstacles along the way, such as concrete road dividers and roundabouts, where the superwing carrier's special features prove to be very convenient. The front of the trailer can be lifted an extra 80 centimeters and the back 60 centimeters, taking the trailer trouble-free above the concrete edges of the many roundabouts which exist here too in industrial areas, thanks to the EU. Also, the possibility of independent steering of the rear dolly axles is indispensable. The trailer stays perfectly behind the tractor, and thus the journey can be continued without significant delay. On arrival in the port town of Motril, they have to wait for the crane, which will store the blades in the designated areas. However, this is Spain, which means mañana, mañana. And so, in the baking heat, the waiting begins. For the drivers, this is disadvantageous, but there is one advantage. In the harbour, they can fish for their lunch. On the other side of the European continent, in Kolding, Denmark, the staff of the Polish-German RM Kranwind company are unwrapping 3 brand new Quattro Tele-PX super wing carriers. Even the blade supports still have to be attached. There is a first time for everything, and with some hesitation, the crew couples the trailers. Preparing the equipment for the forthcoming transport, the transportation of 3 61-metre-long wind turbine blades at a time from the LM Wind Power factory in Kolding to the port of Esbjerg in southern Denmark, takes somewhat longer on this first occasion. Furthermore, the drivers are not given a great deal of time to get used to the new combinations. The MAN TGX 4L450 tractor trucks are brand new. The first transport is planned for today. Because wind turbine blades are growing ever longer, currently they are over 70 meters long, Nooteboom developed the Tele-PX super wing carrier. Using these 4-section telescopic trailers, RM Kranwind can transport wind turbine blades up to over 70 meters throughout Europe. Although the drivers are experienced with extreme loads, the length of this total combination is quite a challenge. Also, the route to the port of Esbjerg is still unfamiliar to them, so a safety escort is quite welcome. In order to do this, LM Wind Power appointed a special Danish guide, who will try his utmost to give instructions in English near difficult junctions and motorway entrances in order to obstruct traffic as little as possible. The Quattro Tele-PX super wing carrier is not just another longer version of its predecessor. The entire construction was renewed to prevent the trailer from tilting due to the shift of the center of gravity of the longer blades. In addition, the blades are obviously made to catch wind, and so the trailer must have considerable own dead weight and be constructed torsion resistant to prevent it from tipping over in a bit of side wind. The great advantage of the Quattro Super Wing Carrier, which was based on multi-PX with Pendle swing axle technology, is the lower loading floor, which means the transport won't experience height problems when passing under overpasses. In countries such as Germany and the Netherlands, the Quattro Tele-PX can take any motorway, and it is not necessary to plan any alternative routes. In Denmark, exceptional transports can take place during the daytime with a safety escort, but with no need for the police. The fact that the Danish are not fazed by another metre or two soon becomes clear. The transport is repeatedly hindered by road users who apparently have complete confidence in the combination driver's skills.
No, LM, one truck, put it down there on to the motorway, stop, then go back, truck number 2, truck number 2, out here, down there and back and take the last one, because that is a big problem here. Problem, we can't speak properly with the drivers, and because of that I told him, tried to show him what he had to do, and it was to go in the grass here with the truck, left and right side there, left side here, because that's the only way to get it around here.
After a few kilometers of running the gauntlet, during which the driver's know-how and the Super Wing carrier's features are thoroughly tested, the trio gets on the motorway towards the port of Esbjerg, where, upon arrival, the waiting for the unloading crew begins. This will make for a long day, but in the world of transport, this is the rule rather than the exception. In the Netherlands too, there's a lot happening in the field of wind turbine transport. In the Noordoostpolder, the largest wind park of the country is being built. When completed, this wind park will have 86 turbines, which together will produce 1.4 billion kilowatt-hours of energy. The hub height of the turbines installed on land is 135 meters, while the maximum blade tip height reaches 198.5 meters. Of those 86 wind turbines, 48 are installed in the sea near the coast. The others are on land, just behind the dike. For the turbines on land, supplier Enercon made an unusual choice. The blades consist of two components, which makes the transport of the synthetic components of the blade significantly easier. This part is only 34 meters long and 4.2 meters wide. So as a result, bulk transport can deploy a regular extendable trailer, which, once arrived at the wind park, is relieved of its load by an enormous crane straight away. No waiting around here. The unloading is supervised by Enercon staff. As soon as the blade is off the trailer, the driver will move the combination backwards, retract the trailer, and in no time will be on his way to pick up the next segment. We are back at Nooteboom in Wijchen, where drivers of the Gertsen foam from Germany are being instructed about the mega windmill transporter, of which their employer has ordered 3. Although all these drivers have definitely earned their spurs in exceptional transport, this is the first time for them to get acquainted with this high-tech trailer. All the ins and outs are explained in detail and demonstrated. And once the men have tried all the procedures required for the coupling and decoupling of the trailer, they are quite impressed by all the possibilities. Now it is up to them to successfully carry out their first transport.
Nou, dat is onmogelijk, want deze is hoger dan deze.
Okay.
This is what makes drivers happy. 4 axles under the tractor and 11 under the trailer. This is an impressive combination. Painted in bright yellow, you cannot miss it, which is exactly the idea. The first journey with the Mega Windmill Transporter is from Brache, Germany to the new wind park being built in Kreglingen. The huge terrain in Brache is packed with components for this wind park. Unfortunately, there is enough space left to maneuver the combination. Practice makes perfect, and the men join forces to start working on disconnection of the electricity and decoupling of the trailer parts. While they do their tricks with both dollies, on another part of the site, the tower section is being made ready for transport by the forklift truck drivers. And then the steering begins. Whether it is beginner's luck or driving skill, the dolly is brought exactly in place in just one go. The driver in any case is satisfied with this maneuver. After everything is securely fixed, the rest of the combination is driven right in front of the tower part and coupled. After this, all the electricity and hydraulics are connected, and then the giant is on its way to the wind park some 600 kilometers away. On the motorway, everything runs smoothly. The safety escort keeps other road users away, and the transport is making good progress. Still, 2 night stays are included in this journey. Partly due to the enormous detour the transport needs to make because of all the roadworks, and partly because of the fact that heavy transport on motorways guided by the police can only take place at certain times. Once off the motorway, the tougher steering work begins. Bends have been adjusted here by means of road plates. All road signs and other obstacles are removed and then later put back. If a speed bump is just a little bit too high, the tower section is lifted to prevent damage. On the tower section, a special coating is applied that should not be scratched, as it gives rust prevention and other weather protection. A significant part of the journey over B roads is done driving backwards. because some bends cannot be taken while driving forward. The Getson crew does not have an easy journey, as apart from driving backwards for many kilometers on secondary roads, there is another challenge. Obviously, this is not the first time for the guides to accompany a transport, seeing how smoothly the combination takes its bends following their instructions. The guides know exactly what the independently steerable dollies are capable of. Using the remote control, from their vans or on foot, in front of or behind the dolly, they steer the combination through every bend. In Germany too, attention is being paid to the environment. And although sometimes trees are cut for special transport, in one of the quaint villages, a very old oak is very much in the way. But as this tree bears the label Protected Monument, it is out of the question for so much as a branch to be cut or sawn. This oak is untouchable, so to speak. After accurate calculation by the route planner, the outcome is that the entire contraption should be able to pass. And the whole village has come to check if it really can. It takes some time, but after magnificent steering down to the millimeter, eventually the combination reaches the main street unscathed, just like the tree, and the final part of the journey can commence. This goes along an access road especially created to reach the wind park, through fields and past shrubs and hills towards an elevated car park where there's another wait until the tower parts are cleared to be driven to their final destination. Across the North Sea also, at the port of Grimsby, England, there is a lot going on in terms of wind turbines. It is a collection point for wind turbine parts for England's largest wind park being built in Scunthorpe, close to the North Sea. A coming and going of transport companies' rigs, including those of Scotland-based McFadden's, which are being loaded swiftly and efficiently by port personnel. Loading such a wind turbine blade is done in no time, obviously, as it's carried out by a conductor and 7 or 8 men who do this work day in and day out. McFadyen's has both mega windmill trailers and super wing carriers. But in the port, we watch the loading of a nacelle on a 3-bed, 5-module trailer with a removable gooseneck. It is worth seeing. This so-called Euro Combi, with Schuyler gooseneck and axle lines, is some 13 years old, yet the load floor between the axle units was newly developed and built by Nooteboom in 2011. This floor is particularly intended for nacelle transport, regardless of the manufacturer. This one is a Vestas nacelle. The special thing about this floor is that the trailer can unload itself on site with no need for cranes and can then drive back home empty. In this sense, empty is, however, relative, as the unloaded weight of the Scania tractor plus trailer is about 60 tons. When loaded, this Vestas nacelle weighing some 18 tons, the train weight reaches 140 tons. Certainly no lightweight. The McFadyen's home base is Campbelltown in the Scottish county of Argyll, where a wind turbine factory of Vestas from Denmark is also located. McFadyen's handles the transport from the factory to the port of Campbelltown and subsequently from the port in the country of destination to the construction site. The 2 tower components being loaded and transported today could no longer fit into the ship, and so are being moved by road towards England. A 2-day journey through one of the most beautiful Scottish landscapes. The schedule is again extremely tight. When Graham Martin arrives, the tower component is already held ready in the grippers of 2 huge forklift trucks. Graham's regular guide Frank assists him to position the trailer in the right spot, and after the load is lashed and checked for height, he can start his journey to England. Graham has been a driver with McFadyen's for 11 years, and just like his colleagues, he is often away from home for weeks transporting loads abroad. Usually, the drivers stay with each project until it's completed. So Graham is always prepared for a long stay in his truck. A beautiful Scania with various Scottish features as well as all conceivable comforts in the cabin. He's just been back home for a while and is ready for the next job. Together with his regular guide Frank, he embarks on the journey towards the wind park. Challenges galore. And although it's not a mega windmill transporter on this job, the regular expandable trailer does a fine job along this route. The axles smoothly follow the truck, and with a confident hand, Graham drives his combination over locks, bridges and roundabouts. Here too, the guides are indispensable, and if a passage seems a bit narrow, they take action to assist the driver using walkie-talkies and pilot him safely and swiftly past any obstacle.
Tricky operation.
Also, the police accompany this transport to stop oncoming traffic, as the road is by no means wide enough to let them pass anywhere. So regular stops take place, to also allow the traffic going in the same direction to overtake. Once leaving the picturesque villages behind, further inland, the road becomes much wider, allowing the transport to go full speed to get as far as possible towards the wind park today. After a short overnight stop in Carlisle, early the next morning the transport heads for the port, where Graham, after a less pleasant day waiting at the wind park to finally be unloaded, spends the rest of this job on tedious shuttles between port and wind park. Life can be tough sometimes. Back to Germany. Here, in recent years, larger and smaller wind parks are being built rapidly at every available location. For example, the Hunsrücke, a hilly area with many forests, where in Wartersbach a small wind park is being built. The Dutch transporter Bolk is responsible for the transport of all the components of the wind turbines for this project, a just-in-time job, as there is no storage space on the mountain. Today, the aim is to assemble one turbine completely, so the drivers have had an early start. Firstly, the nacelle goes up, to turn on a specially landscaped plot, after which it will ascend along the path towards the unloading site. The nacelle is followed by the last tower component that will be hoisted into place first. Although the supply route was created especially for the building of this wind park, the trucks have a hard time getting the load up the hill. Meter by meter, the combination crawls up towards the installation to be completed. Here, the Mega Windmill transporter is especially effective, as the guides, using their remote controls, can move the rear dolly precisely through the narrow bends. As soon as the combination arrives, the tower component is attached to 2 cranes and the first hoist of the day is ready to go. The 2 cranes are necessary to hoist the tower component from horizontal to vertical position. The main crane hoists the top up slowly, while the second crane ensures that the bottom of the tower does not fall to the ground. Once vertical, the rear is disconnected and the clamp segment of the tower unscrewed to allow the part to be fixed onto the top of the tower. The Polish hoist crew is specialized in guiding the hoisting for wind turbines. Erecting the tower parts and nacelle is a specialized job, as is the fixing of the blades later. But by the time the last tower component is in place, a problem has hit one of the tractors. The rear axle of the tractor carrying the first blade has failed, and swift action is required to lift and immobilize the axle so the trailer can be decoupled. The men are sorting out how to keep the axle raised using chains, as any delay is disastrous for swift turbine assembly. They come up with a solution, and together the men carry out the emergency repair. Then another tractor is required to tow away the broken down DAF and finally transport the trailer, including the blade, to the tower. Meanwhile, the nacelle, the heaviest part of the turbine installation, is placed in the hoists by the crane crew. While hoisting, manpower ensures that the turbine housing does not hit the tower, which requires a lot of muscle, as the heavy mass is now subject to gusts of wind. Below, among the trees, there is hardly any wind, but at a height of 100 meters, it is almost Beaufort wind force 4, which is the maximum allowed before calling off the hoist. The crane driver, however, won't be put off by the wind, and slowly but surely the nacelle settles into place upon the tower. Meanwhile, down the hill, they have succeeded in switching trucks, and the first blade is coming up the hill. Although they have kept within the agreed schedule, Mother Nature once again prevents the blade from being put into place today. A lot of wind is beneficial for a wind turbine, but not while it's being built. All special transport, including that of wind turbines, is carried out at night in Germany. For the drivers of transport company Transanneberg, working at night is therefore a daily job. After their mandatory rest period, it is finally time to make the last few kilometers to the wind park. It does not go quickly, however, as after the trucks are off the motorway, they are stopped by the German police, who want to check the paperwork and the securing of the load. This takes a significant amount of time, and even in the middle of the night with the roads quiet, still a roadblock in the middle of a village is quite annoying for many a driver. After some 45 minutes, the column finally starts moving again, with only 1 more kilometer to the wind park. next morning, there are no pulleys in sight, and at a rapid pace, the first tower component is taken up. The supply route is nice and wide, and the bends are not too tight, so the guides need to walk fast to keep up with the convoy in order to correct if necessary. Not only the tower components are delivered, but also 3 blades are unloaded in a designated spot. The Transanneberg fleet consists of 7 super wing carriers and 2 mega wind transporters. Today, 6 of them are going up and down the mountain. One combination after the other crawls up to where the cranes are ready to relieve the megas of their burdens. In order for the blades to be unloaded, 2 cranes were hired. And once the trucks are in the right position, within reach of the cranes, these long wind catchers are professionally unloaded and stored. The next tower component has reached the turbine. And here, the advantage of using the mega windmill transporter is very clear. Unloading without needing a crane is convenient for every transporter because it saves a lot of time. Just a matter of parking in the right spot, placing blocks under the tower to prevent damage, releasing the clamps, lowering, removing the dolly, turning the trucks and attaching the dollies again. Now the combination can be off on its way again. Today's last blade has arrived at the 2 unloading cranes, where the staff are ready to receive the load. And while higher up at the tower, the drivers and guides together complete the coupling of the mega wind transporter, down the hill, the 4 parts of the super wing carrier are linked up again, so the convoy can leave and pick up yet another huge load. And these remarkable monsters with their skilled crews will work on into the future, as long as there is a demand for green energy.